Next, we would like to proceed to the panel discussion. So, a moderator and the panelists, please come forward to the stage. Please welcome them with a round of applause. The theme is in order to become the global financial center. This point onward, I would like to ask Yamaoka-san to moderate the session. Yamaoka-san, please, over to you. My name is Yamaoka. I am a Chief International Fellow of the FinCity. So in order for Tokyo to develop as the global financial center, what do we need to do? That is the theme which has been discussed for a long time, and I have been engaged in this area for a long time. And Tokyo is one of the largest megalopolis, which I think is one of the strengths and at the same time a challenge. So there are a lot of industries and funds. And because of that, financial market has a tendency to become purely domestic. And people often talk about the importance of manufacturing. So we have faced issues in the past about digitalization and the green. These are the keywords in order for Tokyo to become the global financial center. So digitalization means data-driven, and the industries and universities, such a network Tokyo has, which means that Tokyo can collect a huge volume of data, and a shift into green. The future generation will be the beneficiary of such wealth. And that is something Tokyo should give a higher priority. And we also need to check whether Tokyo is really green or not. So Tokyo Metropolitan Government, digital and green, with these two keywords in our mind, the FinCity Tokyo and Green Finance Initiative we have been promoting. Today, finance, city, sustainable finance, and the support for operating companies. Those topics I would like to discuss with the intellectuals from various sectors. Let me introduce to you the panelists. First of all, Tetsuya Inoue, FCT, Head of Policy Research. Next, the Professor Emeritus of Meiji University, Professor Hiroo Ichikawa. And Japan Research Institute Limited, Center for the Strategy of Emergence, Senior Manager Makiko Hashizume. Lastly, from METI, GX Finance Promotion and GX Office Head, Mr. Kajikawa. First of all, Mr. Inoue, who's promoting the FinCity activities, please explain about your activity.
Thank you so much. I'm Inoue from FinCity Tokyo. Great to be here. I mean, members of the panel, such distinguished members, so I just would like to be the kind of an introductory person to share with you what we do. Next page, please. If you look at this page, Yamaoka-san, you already covered quite a lot of them. I don't want to overlap, but finance itself, development is important, but the real economy activities need to be supported. So sustainable economic growth, left-hand side, you can see the circle. There are many aspects in the real economy, and controlling the climate change, that's one thing, but the supply chain and the earnings power of companies, that's another thing. Right-hand side, you can see a series of solutions. So, the Prime Minister Kishida said in New York, but important assets of Japan, personal financial assets, how to revitalize the personal assets. That aspect, I think, is necessary to connect the two, as Yamaoka-san said, digital data. very valuable resources should be mobilized and combining them in a clever manner. In FinCity Teikyo, we believe that this is a good perspective. And now focusing more on the finance. Next slide, please. In the FinCity Teikyo, what's the international financial city? Make sure there is a good circulation of money for economic activities, revitalize the management of domestic assets, but it has to flow into corporate. In the final analysis, there have to be returns to the people. So flow back to the people. So what Tokyo aspires to, I'm pretty sure it's open to various discussions, but onshore type of financial center, that's what we want to be. To revitalize that, overseas expertise should be utilized, and then with finance trying to realize a good balance of risk and returns. Next, regarding the major flows of money, I can't delve into the detail because of the restraint of time. Asset management, country based on asset management, it's not just revitalize asset owners and managers. There have to be participation from everybody. So as you can see in the little kind of a dialogue type of box, as a FinCity Teikyo, concreteness, the abstractness, there are varying degrees, but for each area or each person's major players, what kind of things they are encouraged to do. Policy recommendations, concrete actions have been taken. I hope that you could take a look at them at your leisure. Just two things because of the restraint of time. The first one, growth capital. We call this growth capital. I think this might sound a bit new. There are public companies, but some of them don't enjoy growth, and many companies don't enjoy growth after floating their shares. So new business, people with new technology, how they can actually promote the growth of such businesses. We are discussing these things, asset owners, if they can make a contribution to such companies, or hands-on changing business models, including the buyout, including such an approach. Since this is a new perspective, we want to vitalize that as a whole. We want to enhance the function of capital markets. That's one of the things we are discussing. There's another, supply chain. Next page, please. In various perspectives, enhancing supply chain is a very important issue. We do have a member from the METI. You are an expert in this regard. Concerning this part, more or less we are focusing on green transformation, or GX. Already, with the relevant ministries and agencies, you already have platforms. But in an organic manner, there isn't interoperation. So creating a certain kind of hub and connecting all those different parts, that's one. And as Yamaoka-san mentioned, digitalization, fintech solutions. In each area, we do see some of those activities by utilizing them. Supply chain, through supply chain digitalization, in the GX, there is scope 3, and enhancing on the financing SMEs, we would like to make a perhaps contribution. That's another area. So that's an introductory part. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Inoue. Next, Professor Ichikawa will talk about the strengths as well as the challenges of Tokyo. So I specialize in cities, and I would like to talk about how Tokyo is positioned among global cities, and a city ranking I would like to share with you. Tokyo. So we evaluate the cities about their strengths, and Tokyo is wanting to become the global finance center, and want to become the top city in Asia. So we evaluated the cities, the economy, the development, so on and so forth. So the comprehensive strengths have been taken into account for this ranking. And 48 cities were evaluated, so it includes all major cities in the world. The next one, there are 6 areas, but each one has different features. But the first one is economy with 13 indices, and the smallest one is the R&D with only 3 indices. So economy seems to have the biggest impact, plus culture, exchanges, and housing elements are also considered. So what is the result? If I may jump to the conclusion, right now London ranks number 1, followed by New York, Tokyo, and Paris. Singapore is in number 5th, and Amsterdam, which has become stronger because of Brexit, and Seoul, Berlin, Melbourne, and Shanghai. But this ranking is renewed every year. Please look at the next page, or before that. So, what are the strengths and weaknesses of Tokyo? So, economy is declining gradually. So, 2022, this was announced. And this year's ranking will be announced next month. And Tokyo is now in the 5th position when it comes to economy, so it's below Beijing. And R&D, Tokyo is number 4, and culture and exchanges number 5. So London ranks at top, and 338 is the total score, and Tokyo's total score is only 210. So it's becoming weaker. That is a problem. And housing, environment, major cities do not do well because of high prices. And Tokyo, traffic and access, Tokyo dropped to number 10 because of COVID. So if you can look at the next one, next chart. In a nutshell, London ranks number 1, but in 2008, after we started this activity, the Olympic Games were held in London, and London surpassed New York. And right now, so Tokyo went up temporarily, but climbed down again. But it's still, Tokyo is still on number 3. But actually, Tokyo is highly evaluated globally. It's number 2 city that the people want to work. And Tokyo is particularly evaluated highly by Asian people. Asian people want to work in Tokyo, particularly in finance sector, but we did not include the finance sector in our evaluation. So whether Tokyo can become a global finance center is a topic, and therefore these 4 topics, the financial instrument market, the financial intermediary function, FX, and the interest rate market, as well as the highly sophisticated experts. So based upon these 4 axes, we evaluated. So Tokyo is quite attractive for people in finance sector. However, when they actually try to work in Tokyo, there are many impediments. And the ranking also includes the benchmark for the new policies. So what are the challenges for Tokyo, and what Tokyo needs to do? And New York is ranked much higher. And whether Tokyo can be the top city in Asia is the question. And later on, I would like to comment on this again. But financial market of Tokyo ranks high. However, foreign currency, foreign exchange, and other transactions involving other countries, Tokyo becomes lower. So language problem is one of the things. So the number of people who can work globally is rather limited. I will talk about that later again. Thank you, Professor Ichikawa. Next, I would like to invite Mr. Hashizume to talk about sustainable finance. So what we need to do about this.
Thank you for having me. From the JRI, my name is Hashizume. Could you show the slide, please? Now, in today's session, International Financial City, from the sustainable finance perspective, I'm asked to share with you some information. I think what I'm going to share with you may be overlapping with what you already had, but please bear with me. Next page, please. Here in Japan, ESG bond market, including green bonds, social bonds, sustainability bonds, they keep increasing. ESG market growth is increasing. Regarding the detail, I will skip the detail. But in 2017, when green bonds were still at the embryonic stage, the very first green bonds by Tokyo Metropolitan government, I helped that issuance. At that time, by issuing green bonds, International Financial City, there was kind of a connected logic. Now, come 2023, as you can see the graph, it's growing, and I'm being able to participate in this meeting. It's great pleasure. Domestic, increasing ESG bonds market. Just a little, what's actually happening is what I would like to share with you. It's a busy slide. Letters are so small, but it might be difficult. Social bonds contribution to the society, that's shown in yellow. In 2020, it enjoyed much growth. 2023, it hasn't finished yet, but the JFSA, regarding what's social, what's impact, they are working on the guidelines, I understand. So rules, guidelines, once they're established, I think that will lead to the market growth. So that's one of the things that's happening. Right-hand side, then there is an increase of bonds without stating the use of funds. For instance, green bonds, PV, power generation. So greens whose use of funds are already cleared. And with sometimes the green, when the business grows, it's still considered sustainability bonds. So the use of funds not defined. And more recently, there are many more bonds without the stated use of funds. But generally speaking, the market is enjoying growth. Next page, please. Having said that, so it's growing. So everything is fine. No, this is Kamakura Sustainability Research Institute's report. So what is it trying to communicate? What it says? Domestic green bonds issuers reporting that's being checked by this institute. So issuers impact reporting using these green bonds, how much CO2 reductions have been made. That kind of report is encouraged to be issued, but actually fraction gets reviewed. Or right-hand side, regarding such reports, they are expected to be renewed, but not everything was renewed actually. So the issuer's disclosure still had some issues. Next page, please. Here, global sustainability finance, again, it keeps growing and growing. What's the message here? Regarding the global sustainability finance, outstanding balance is increasing. But if you look at the EU from 2018 to 2020, it decreased. Why? Some of you may be familiar with this. Within the EU, sustainable finance regulations become tougher. What's green? Or what about the corporate disclosure? It has become more demanding, so the sustainability number count has decreased. Here in Japan, going forward, with more stringent regulations being introduced, it could happen here in Japan as well. Next page, please. So, the market is becoming more demanding in terms of regulations. Is it going to shrink? Some don't shrink. One example, Luxembourg, they have green exchange. In 2016, the platform was established. Now, not just in Europe, but China, green bonds. are listed in Luxembourg exchange. It has become a kind of a status. It's not just becoming more stringent and shrink, but with more stringent regulations, they gain credibility and they can enjoy growth in some cases. So this is my final message. Today's theme, International Financial City, Teikyo. To differentiate us in sustainable finance, number one, global standards, of course, that's to be expected, plus impact such as CO2, gender, disclose a lot of things in impact. That's number one. Number two, as you already heard, sustainability of financial economy. Human resources development necessary, not just finance. Times sustainability part is important. Number three, as Professor already said, collaboration with other cities. Luxembourg, for instance, they have strong connections with China. Within Europe, they do have strong connections. That's why they have been able to grow. Perhaps we can pursue something similar here in Tokyo. Thank you for bearing with me. Thank you so much. From METI, Kajikawa-san, on sustainable finance. So it's also important for Japan's industry to have transition. Please, Kajikawa-san. Thank you for having me. I'm from METI. My name is Kajikawa. Concerning GX policies, I've been doing this for 5 years. 2050, carbon neutrality, the declaration 2030, 46% reduction plan, devising those plans. I have done those, and at the same time, the decarbonization of the industry and finance. There has to be good connection, otherwise it's not going to function well. The government as a whole, GX investment is concerned. In the next 10 years, public-private sector combined more than 150 trillion investment is necessary, of which 20 trillion yen from GX transition bonds. This is a kind of a new bonds, government bonds. They are to be issued, and then with the certification from third party, and then different from ordinary JGBs, it'll be, we would like to see the issuance in an individual different way. Government as a whole becomes an issuer of the sustainable bonds, and they try to expand the market themselves. So from me, regarding the company, operating company for GX, the investment, what's the direction do we see, especially for within the sustainable finance, green finance, renewable energy, green buildings? Those have enjoyed some progress, but so far, something that was not issued as green bonds, but as a transition financing, we could extend support. That's part of our policy. So, on those two, allow me to give you more information. As you can see on the slide, government as a whole, as the Japanese government as a whole, emissions reduction and growth. We want to achieve both of them at the same time. That's the basic policy. Against the backdrop, especially CO2 emissions, the companies with high emissions. In this, we call this GX League. Each company, they are expected to raise their hands, set the targets, and then vis-a-vis the target, how much they have achieved. Check that if they can't achieve, and for those overachievers between the two, the emissions trading can be conducted. Such system has started. Starting this fiscal year, we start this, and 2026, full-fledged the emissions trading is expected. In terms of laws and regulations, 2033 to power generation companies on their emissions, it can be free of charge or it can with charge. They can buy. So we are going to introduce that system. In EU, they have a ETS emissions trading system, which is already up and running. And something closely resembling the EU ETS will be introduced. Regarding the GX League itself, first it will be on a trial basis and then full-fledged introduction is expected. But in the way I explained, gradually various regulations or emissions reduction endeavor is necessary. various companies, how they can transition to the transition plan, trial plans. They will be prepared one by one. And on top of that, to realize carbon neutrality, not just in making investment renewable, but other things are necessary. That's our recognition. More specifically, for instance, about 1 billion tons is Japan's whole emissions. 40% comes from the energy sector. Currently, a lot of power generation is done by fossil fuel, but renewables and nuclear, such conversion, a switch to non-fossil, that should be done in a maximized manner. But there is a hard-to-abate industry, for instance, steel making, materials industry, chemical, cement, pulp and paper industry, hard to abate. In the manufacturing process, as a chemical reaction, CO2 is emitted in steel making, for instance, and power and electrification. In the manufacturing process, they can't really address those. For instance, cement. There is a sintering process, and they have rotary kiln, big structure, and it has to go up to 1,450 degrees centigrade. You can't do this from the renewable. It's important to decarbonize, but they do require certain CO2, and in that area, coal-firing hydrogen and ammonia gradually reduced emissions. That's our thinking. But so far, they couldn't get the financing. But next page, please. So, emissions reduction, it's hard to abate industry, but we want to have good engagement, and they should receive funding. So, with the transition financing, we called it transition financing. Let the money flow into them, and then have certain legitimacy. That's the policy. Roughly speaking, there are 4 areas. ICMA, the Association of ICMA has certain guideline handbook. And the FSA, the METI, and the Environment Ministry came up with something similar to that. And number 2, this is a roadmap by sector. The steel, chemical, power sector. It's not that anything can be transitioned. We need to scrutinize the technology to achieve carbon neutrality in 2050 by making commitment and then creating this roadmap, introducing which technology by when, and then which one is transition eligible. That's number 2. Number 3, green finance importance. That's one, but at the same time, as you already heard, the EU. The balance has decreased, Hashizume-san mentioned. So greenwash, the suspected greenwash, that discussion. Number 3, make sure that investors understand good cases, have a model business, and then introduce good ones into the market. We extend support to that end. Number 4, after funding, financing, looking at the strategy, and then do the follow-up. The issuers and investors should have a dialogue, and we do have a guidance for that. Sorry for a lengthy explanation. What I'm trying to say is that the industry decarbonization is important. In addition, green finance, in addition to conventional green finance, heat demand, manufacturing processes. Towards decarbonization, we need to make sure that the money flows into this. This takes time, but we have to address this. So origination of those activities from the viewpoint of Teikyo and manufacturing finance, there are 2, both of them. I think Teikyo has a great potential. Thank you.
Thank you very much. This time, the Tokyo as a global finance center, each panelist has been asked to write down one keyword on the board. Please show us your board. So as keyword, the panelists have written the keywords. So reversing the order, can I start with Mr. Kajikawa? Yes. So, sorry. So collaboration with Asia. the path to carbon neutrality cannot be achieved by Japan alone. It takes a collaboration. The 50% of the total CO2 emission in the world comes from Asia. So various fossil fuels are used in Asia, and therefore the decarbonization will not be easy in Asia. But as I said, manufacturing, there are lots of manufacturing industries in Asia, and therefore transition thinking or philosophies like steel making, roadmaps, and the like such tools we would like to offer to other Asian nations in order to make a contribution. By offering such tools, the fundraising will take place and eventually will be returned to Japan somehow. So samurai bond, the foreign investors or foreign issuers issue in yen-denominated way. So transition finance, the concept that we are trying to deploy in Asia, and if we can deepen people's understanding about this in Japan, particularly in Tokyo, the foreign capital companies will be able to issue green bonds or samurai bonds in Tokyo. Then it will enhance Tokyo's value. Of course, there are challenges, but I think it will be important to work on something like this.
Thank you. Hashizume-san, please. I wrote financial well-being. Recently, I did some research, sustainability perspective in the financial economic education. How can we incorporate that in various countries into the financial literacy ranking and the feeling of happiness? They seem to go hand in hand. So what do they call it in OECD? They use the word financial well-being. In other words, unless you feel secure economically, because if you can't really work, if you feel unhappy, that's the kind of mindset you tend to have. So economic financial literacy, once you acquire them, it's not about making money or not making money, but this peace of mind that you can use money well, that leads to the sense of happiness or well-being. Now, International Financial City, of course, the economic part is important, but from the sustainability finance, from non-financial aspects such as well-being or happiness, being aware of those things, then characters of Teikyo, if they manifest themselves, I think it'd be great. That's why I wrote this. Thank you.
Next, Professor Ichikawa. From a city perspective and intercity competition, I looked at, and to become a global finance city, what are the challenges that we need to overcome? Various people have been saying various things, but in a nutshell, the finance city is different from a global finance city. The Tokyo's strength is that we have pretty solid intermediary services, and the insurers are quite robust as well. However, in Asia, take for example, there are Singapore and Hong Kong, and is Tokyo good enough? I don't think we can be optimistic. So global finance city, whether we can achieve this goal, inclusive of excellent talents, and so forth. And probably we should create cities and societies where the families of non-Japanese people can be happy by creating international schools and so forth. So we need to do something specific. Thank you.
Mr. Inoue. Diversity in financial services as well. So we have been talking about sustainability, or perhaps to some extent diversity, as members of the panel already pointed out. Tokyo or Japan, complicated financial economic system is found with many issues. Just in sustainability, there are many issues. So, as I said, it has to be done by everybody's participation, but the way to respond as methodologies or means, finance, I think is very important. And as I said in my initial comment, or Kajikawa-san said, transition-like strategy, when that's taken, including various technological development, there are various risks involved. So risks and returns, you need to distribute them, and amongst the financial mechanism, this is a very important part, so that needs to be utilized. But can Japanese players alone handle them? That's one question in that the case. New expertise, new business models from overseas players, perhaps one can absorb them, and that is also important. As Professor Ichikawa said, global financial city, global financial center function, if that can be done, then it will contribute to becoming the global financial city. Even those people who couldn't enjoy the sophisticated financial services, I mean, industrialized type of financial inclusion may happen, or Professor Ichikawa said regarding the global financial city. Overseas, global standards have already been manifested by certain players when they come to Japan and they engage in various activities. Naturally, the global standards will take root here in Japan as a possibility.
Thank you. Having listened to you, I came up with this keyword, multi-application. Hashizume-san said well-being, finance and non-finance. So by multiplying various elements, we can broaden the world. And collaboration with Asia was also mentioned. The companies can create needs for green finance, and so forth. Unless we have demands and needs, we cannot grow it. So, and the culture, traffic, various aspects also come into play. So we shouldn't look at only the finance, but also diversity perspective. Is another element. So the city should have a multifaceted aspects. And Tokyo, as a gigantic network, has a big potentiality. That is what I felt. Thank you very much, all the panelists. So once again, please give them nice rounds of applause. So moderator and panelists did a good job.